So the boost in this tank right here, focus. The boost in this tank is not doing as well as I would have hoped. And then the corundum right there is just, it might have already consumed the root tab, and then same thing with the boost here, and then there's boost back there. So I want to move all of these to one of the dirty tanks to see if they'll do better. And then also, Subwasser Tang is kind of taking over this sponge, which is a good thing, but the sponge already had a bunch of Anubias on it, and I don't want issues with that, smothering the Anubias. So there's a lot of this kind of like bushy mossy plants that are kind of competing with other plants, so I want to try to fix that. Let's look at the tank from the back side because it gets better lighting due to the sunlight that comes through that window. I would recommend that everyone who has an option to put a planted tank in front of a small window, I really think it helps, and you really don't have to worry about algae as long as you have a lot of plants, and they will thrive. So this Subwasser Tang is killing it right now. It looks really happy, and it grows more quickly than some of the Subwasser Tang in the tanks that have the aquarium lights on it and no sunlight. So sunlight is the best light, generally speaking. And shrimp they're loving it too. They like their Subwasser Tang. I kind of don't want to take it out, but I'll have to take some of it because I have so much Subwasser Tang anyway. But the Anubias or not the Anubias, but the Java ferns are my favorite plant, and I want to have so many Java ferns everywhere. And then same with this Anubias. This one definitely has to go. It's just taking over this Anubias, and it's trying to enjoy the sun. So like even your low light plants will appreciate some sunlight. You know, have a little bit of direct sunlight. Indirect sunlight helps too, but you don't want to have like full sunlight most of the day. These plants wouldn't like it as much. So I got some of it off the sponge filter. I didn't want to get all of it, but I cleared some from that Anubias there, looking a lot better. Some of the other Anubias got cleared from the Subwasser Tang. I decided to keep this boost because it was doing actually okay, but I removed the rest of them, put them in the dirty tub. And then as far as all the moss and Subwasser Tang, it's now over here. I added it to the Java moss to the monster Java moss I have in here. There is a sponge filter behind that, and the boost or the Subwasser Tang to this side, this corner right here. It's not as much as I thought it would be, but this is actually a fairly large tank for moss, I think. But it'll be interesting to see how this fills in over the years. So I just purchased some, I guess they're called fireball platies or dwarf platies, and they're pretty tiny. Some of them are younger than the others. I got them off Aquabid. Pretty happy with them for the most part. I got it from 2 different breeders on Aquabid, and I think they look really sweet, and they're going to look really good against all this green as it fills in more. The reason I ordered it from 2 different breeders is so that I could have some genetic diversity just in case. The cheaper ones aren't as red, so I might do some separating once I get the colony going. They all came out looking pretty decent. I only had 1 dead on arrival out of 12, so there should be 11 in there, but they are just loving life and happy. Yeah, really excited to get this fish breeding. Feed them twice a day, flake food. So when I purchased those platies, one of the breeders asked if I wanted some other stuff to just include it with the same shipping price, and he had these platinum rice fish, and I've kind of had my eye on these, but they're kind of like not common in my part of the US, not that common, but they look so sweet and they're so hardy. So I want to try to get these breeding in here and then move them outside. Apparently they can survive some pretty harsh winters and summers with little to no filtration. I mean, mostly plant filtration. So that's the goal. Apparently these have a blue shimmer quality, kind of like a Jinrin. They have some like sparkly, like a Jinrin on a koi, some like sparkly, I don't know if they're scales. But so I'm excited to move these outside once I get them going in the 55. But the way they lay eggs, and the reason I picked this tank is the female will have the eggs attached. I don't see any eggs today because I just got these, but we'll have them attached to their stomach area, and the males will fertilize them and they'll distribute it onto plants. So that's why I chose this tank. It had a lot of floating plants where they could spread the eggs, and then I can move these to other tanks. They seem to be compatible with guppies and the red cherry shrimp that I have all over this tank. I had to move the guppies to a different tank in case these fish were sick, contaminate the guppies or get them sick. So I moved them to the different 55 planted tank, which I'll show you right now. So this is where I have the guppies. This is the Java fern tank. It's not really a planted tank, it's just a bunch of rocks with Java ferns. And there's anubias too. There's some smaller anubias there, and then mother anubias plant on some wood that I found outside. This flow seems a little much, which is probably why they're kind of hiding, probably using too much energy to swim. So there's some of the males. Female right there. Yeah, I need to turn down this flow. I have these on the kind of like air valves. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that down. Which, when I do this, I have to balance other tanks because it's all on the same loop. Make sure that they have enough flow, but not too much. So that's going to be a bit of a process. Okay, much better, much calmer. A lot easier for them to swim. So there they are right there. I also added some red cherry shrimp. I guess another thing I didn't mention is I had a bunch of other fish in here that I moved somewhere else. I had an angelfish, colony of those blue neon rainbow fish, and Congo tetra all in here, and it was a pretty sweet tank. I picked this tank for the guppies because this is what I had where they could hide effectively, where the babies could hide effectively, and I had to take the other fish out because they're a little aggressive. But I'll show you all where I moved the other fish to. Yep, so I moved the other angelfish down here. I guess I have a light on it. This tank's a mess, so I do need a water change. It's actually my favorite of the two angels that I have. It's supposed to be, I guess, a koi variety, but so it's in the 75 all by itself. Again, need to clean it. This was kind of a tank that I had to move stuff around. I used to have the ranchu in here, but then I moved them up here. So I moved the rainbow fish and the Congo tetra to this 75. There's another angelfish in here, and then my golden dojo loaches, which I'm in love with this fish. They're very interesting, curious, and just very entertaining. These fish are pretty compatible together as they're both like aggressive feeders. The dojo loaches included. Angelfish not so much, but he or she is learning. I think it's a he. This tank's a mess. I'm working on a water change. Got some Java fern attached to some fake rock and other decorations. There's the angelfish. They try to stick together, but yeah, this tank's a mess of algae and sand. I need to come up with a better system. Hardly any filtration, really, just water changes, and I guess sand provides some benefit as well. So I ordered some plants from the aquarium co-op. I got some pearlweed. You can see it right there in the front. Banana plant that's not looking so hot. I got a crypt lutea, crypt wendii red, crypt japonica, and crypt wendii green. Now, the reason I kind of went crypt crazy here is they seem to do very well when I have them. They're just very slow growing plants, so I want to try to give them another go. But I'm very good at killing plants, but crypts seem to work for me for whatever reason. One thing I did notice, well, let me back up. The original plan was to have them in this dirty tub right here, have the crypts here. It's capped with pea gravel. And the reason I picked this tub was because it has all slow growing plants that will not take over and kind of choke out the slow growing crypt, as opposed to this tank, which has a fast growing plant, fast spreading dwarf Sagittarius. It would have to compete with dwarf Sagittarius if it was to be planted in here. So, but this tub has all slow growers, so they are compatible plants, and it'll be less worrying on my end. Now, it might not be a good idea to plant these in the dirty tub because these root structures they look huge, and I don't think the soil is deep enough for the crypts. And I might experiment a little bit depending on how many plants I get in these little pots. But what I'm planning to do is I got Miracle Grow. This is organic Miracle Grow that I'm going to use. And it's going to be capped by either sand or pea gravel. Sand will be definitely used for the pearlweed since it has a more delicate root structure. And probably all the other ones will use pea gravel, except for the banana plant, which I will just set in one of the dirted tubs and leave it. This plant can sit on top of substrate and then it'll grow its own roots. But I got the sand, I think it's pool filter sand, but I'm not sure, from this 75. Borrowed it, which is why it's so cloudy, because I made a mess as usual in that tank. So this is interesting with the pearlweed container. The sand is very easy to work with, very easy to cap, because it just kind of, since it's wet, just kind of flows, kind of like concrete mix. It just covers everything. So let's see how this looks in the tank. I'm liking the sand and how the pearlweed looks on camera. I'm actually just very impressed. I thought this would be a mess, but it kept all the dirt down. So far so good. Now as this grows, I'm going to trim it and replant it. Hopefully it does well in this lighting. It's just a white kind of shop light. Not really much of a color spectrum, but I also have this plant floating in a bunch of other tanks, so hopefully at least one of them will pop. So I got all the big crypts that have like a large root system. So I got them down here, and it didn't really create much of a mess with the dirt. One of the things I like about these containers is I can just pick it up whenever I want to break this tank down, and it's not going to create a huge mess. I know it's a little dirty, but that was on purpose to seed the tank for the shrimp. The dirt is staying down pretty well. I also have a bunch more little crypts that I'm going to plant somewhere else. It's getting kind of late, so I'll probably do that tomorrow. I added another container for the plants that were floating, the crypts that were floating. And also this crenum here that I've abused over the years. It's really not happy with me. It used to be a lot nicer. But I think crenum definitely doesn't like to be moved. It tends to die back when you just like move it even just a little bit. So just give it time, it'll come back. And now it has like really good substrate, so it should be fine. I ordered these aquascaping scissors from Aquarium Co-op, and this is what I was most excited about, was trimming this plant and replanting it, the pearlweed that is. Kind of took some inspiration from Corvus Oskin. These tweezers you can also get at the Aquarium Co-op on their website, but I bought these at an auction many years ago and never really used them, but very excited for this plant. It's kind of relaxing to trim and replant. I hope the plant does well in this setup. So far the dirt is staying down under the sand. It's not making a mess, but I'm hoping to get a nice little bush going and maybe make more of these. I'm trying to keep it all contained because I don't want the dirt making a mess. I didn't want to do the whole tank. Kind of want to experiment, see how it goes, and then try different things. But yeah, I'm planning to have this in a bunch of other tanks at some point.